Bene, 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 amici del Biogas.
Very good. Dear friends, again, good morning and welcome. And welcome in our annual meeting, which is entitled Technological Factor Innovation in the Field for the Future. We're going to spend 2 nice days together with so many guests, with a very full agenda, with so many panels, speakers and data, which will illustrate the changing scenarios that are changing very quickly. So let us begin with the opening remarks of the president of the SIB. Piero Gattoni is here with us today. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to be here opening this session. So allow me to first thank all our partner companies and let us thank all the firms that are here with us and that belong to our consortium and that have been sponsoring this event. And I would also like to thank all the people and institutions who are going to participate and support this 2 days event. So the title we chose is Technological Factor. And we decided to place technology at the center of a path that consisted in placing anaerobic digesters at the center of the transition of our agricultural model. So anaerobic digestion as something that, of course, produces renewables, that promotes the production of organic fertilizers, but also as something that promotes innovation, an innovation that would allow our identity to continue to be strong, because when we face great changes, of course, we have to reassert our identity, and our identity is a farming one, because anaerobic digestion is a technology that is useful for our companies to change, to produce energy, but also it allows us to be more sustainable and competitive. So, of course, in the farming sector, farmers produce and make things more efficient. And our model is what it is precisely. It is and should be increasingly a model. So in a world when we are often asked to choose between different aspects, and we are told that you can be either competitive or sustainable, we are told that you can be either in favor of production or the environment. Well, we think that there is one single model for transition, and that is why we revert to using words such as sovereignty, which goes side by side with other important terms for us. But we're going to address these topics from different perspectives. This morning we will talk about farming, agriculture. We will speak about innovation that, of course, we take from the world of research. The world of research is important, but over the years we also realized how important experience is, the experience that our farmers gain directly on the field. So the Biogas done well model, which was the basis of the Farming for Future model, which has now become a foundation that is ready to disseminate and promote this model, is based on direct experience, the experience gained by our firms in the past 15 years. So in 15 years, how did we manage to create all this? Well, we did in 2 ways. Keeping the best entrepreneurial resources together, making these resources a model, and also creating bridges between different worlds, that of the, industrial world and the farming one, the world of investments, and the investments we make as farmers, and maintaining a focus on our roots as farming entrepreneurs. We're going to talk about energy at a time when, after so many years, we have managed, thanks to cooperation with the institutions, to give a well-structured framework to the sector through the minimum fee, through provisions concerning the recovery and resilience plan. And in particular, we have clear in our minds that this is a sector that has an incredible development potential and that deserves to have enough time to be able to reap its fruit. So thank you again, and allow me to wish you all the best for this interesting event. Thank you, Piero Gattoni. And so let us begin. So while Piero was talking, I realized that the new Formula One season is about to begin. So while we were speaking about technological factors, I was already thinking about anaerobic digesters, to produce fuels for the new Ferraris. That's perhaps something that will happen in the future. So let us begin our session talking about changing scenarios that change rapidly. So we need to try and understand what is happening. We shall start by talking about the geopolitics of bioenergy, and we will place this topic within the framework of the global challenge concerning farming. We will speak about it with Maria Michela Morese, Energy Team Leader and Senior Natural Resource Officer from FAO, and she is here with us remotely. Good morning. So we have so many people here at the mall eager to listen to you. So what can you tell us about what might happen with all these crises that are ongoing and that have a multi-dimensional impact on the topic of food production? Well, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank you, the organizers, and Piero, for kindly inviting me. And I would like to also greet you on behalf of the assistant of the General Director, Maurizio Martina, who unfortunately could not be here with us, despite the fact he really wanted to be here, because there has been, unfortunately, an emergency. I would like to bring you into the world of farming, as Piero was talking about, because farming plays an essential role, of course, in the bioenergy and biogas sector. I will be speaking in English. I know that there is simultaneous translation, and I would like to analyze some aspects in light of the current geopolitical situation.
We know that the world population is expected to reach almost 10 billion people by 2050. And this will imply an increasing demand for food, water, and energy. So to feed such a growing population, we must transform our agri-food systems to make them more efficient, sustainable, and resilient. But we cannot achieve this without energy, we know, because energy is needed at every stage of agri-food systems. So producing the world's food and getting it from farm to fork comprises about 30% of all energy consumed and over a third of GHG emissions. It's approximately 1 billion tons from agri-food systems, and all this energy is resulting in all these GHG emissions in agri-foods from agri-food systems, which is contributing to the climate effects that we all know. Our agri-food systems stand on a fragile ground because we know they are highly vulnerable to climate change, while at the same time significant contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. So all of this is occurring in the middle of competing needs from industry, cities, and the nature for water, energy, land, and limited natural resources, without mentioning also the challenging times, for example, due to pandemics and wars. So it is clear that there is a critical need for collaborative win-win solutions. And this is why for FAO, climate change, energy, and food security are inseparable. Holistic, integrated approaches to the way we produce, distribute, and consume agri-food products can address challenges at the crossroads of climate, water, and energy uses. So indeed, many of the challenges of climate change, biodiversity loss, and land degradation can be addressed through agri-food system solutions. So our projects in FAO, our initiatives at global, national, and local level are designed to help countries achieve their national aspirations, including for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. And so we support countries to reshape policies and scale up action through innovative technologies and finance. So the most viable solution for reducing agri-food systems use of fossil fuels while reaching food productivity targets is a shift towards more sustainable, renewable energy sources. And this includes many renewable energy sources like solar, wind, hydropower, and of course, bioenergy. Bioenergy has an important role to play. So ensuring sufficient access to sustainable bioenergy can help agri-food system actors adapt to climate change by improving self-sufficiency in reliable and affordable clean energy, and by providing more income opportunities, we know, through energy-related jobs, as well as the sale of more and better quality of food products, thanks to reduced food losses also. So for all these reasons, as a chapeau, let me say that FAO considers energy-smart agri-food systems as a key solution to the food and climate crisis, to increase access to sustainable energy in agri-food systems through innovative green energy solutions. Now, of course, FAO is accelerating practical application of the energy-smart agri-food systems approach through projects, concrete projects all over the world in countries. So, and with these, I would like to give an overview of the examples of projects that FAO is implementing in the bioenergy sector specifically, and with biogas references, of course, in order to honor the focus of this conference. And I'm happy to refer to a few examples. So we have finalized recently a project in Azerbaijan that revealed how investing a bit less than $2 million to use charcoal briquettes from hazelnut instead of gas could save more than 42,000 tons of CO2 equivalent per year. In Rwanda, we have estimated that the total potential energy from alternative pellets and biogas from crops, livestock, and woody residues in the country could reach more than 13,000 terajoule per year, which means contributing by 33% to the Rwandan energy targets for household access to clean cooking fuels. Vietnam and Paraguay. So we estimated GHG emission reduction potential that in Vietnam could be of 38% by using cassava-based ethanol and up to 42% by using biogas from pig manure. Same applies to Paraguay, where the assessed GHG emission reduction is up to 40% using sugarcane-based ethanol. And it is also worth mentioning that cassava and sugarcane in Vietnam and Paraguay, respectively, are highly available, even used for export purposes, and therefore do not enter in competition with food security. So there is no a food versus fuel kind of debate in that context. In India, for example, in the state of Punjab, our assessment revealed that just using 30% of the rice straw currently burned into the field, with all the consequences in terms of GHG emissions, respiratory diseases that we well know, could produce more than 7 million tons pellets to replace coal in power plants, could produce approximately 2,000 million liters of second-generation ethanol, and around 700 tons of compressed biogas for various uses. So the value chain doesn't exist yet in the state of Punjab, but this means that a big investment would be required to make sure that all these residues are used as a resource, are transformed into a resource. Last but not least, I would like to mention another two projects that we have recently finalized in Solomon Islands and in the Gambia, where we assessed the feasibility of biogas technology, identifying opportunities to transform organic waste, particularly pig slurry and other farm residues like tuna canning, wastewater and landfill sites, into clean energy. There again, an important biogas opportunity. So with this, I've given you a little bit of an overview of not only the importance that we attach to bioenergy, sustainable bioenergy, biogas opportunities, but also on how these opportunities have to be put in place into the countries. And of course, sustainability assessment, including economic, social, and environmental considerations, are extremely important, with the view to provide informed guidance to policymakers and hence facilitate a sustainable development. Renewable energy and bioenergy applications and their sustainability, again, is very important, and it's very context specific. And so there is no one-fits-all approach to ensure that it can be managed and implemented in a sustainable manner. So it has to be taken into consideration the very specificity of the context where any bioenergy implementation is put in place. At the same time, before I conclude, allow me to also highlight another important point, which is finance. It is important to highlight that the funds for agri-food solutions, including energy smart agriculture, need to increase. We know that annual clean energy investments worldwide will need to more than triple by 2030 to around $4 trillion in order also to reach the net zero emission by 2050. And this includes the need of substantial increase in renewable energy and sustainable bioenergy in agriculture and food systems. Allow me to conclude by saying that it's a kind of a joint effort that we are having, and it's important to join hands to forge the path towards a sustainable, equitable, and resilient future. And I'm sure that this Biogas Italy occasion event today and tomorrow really represents an additional contribution to this joint effort. Thank you very much. Thank you for your invitation. And I wish you a great two-day event with Biogas Italy. Thank you.
Grazie. Grazie davvero, dottoressa.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Morese from FAO. Thank you so much warm-heartedly for your words and for outlining the global scenario of the challenges awaiting us. Mrs. Morese said that the three big challenges of the future for a planet with 8, 9, 10 billion inhabitants: energy, food, climate change. The answer is represented by biogas, and one of the answers are present just here. Thank you so much. Good work. And I'd like to invite at this point our President, Piero Gattoni, because Piero, now we have a connection and with the Deputy Minister of the Economy and Finance, Maurizio Leo, because recently the income tax authority stressed the theme of fiscal elements of the agri-food energy. And as soon as we have the connection with the Deputy Minister, we'll give him the floor. But after the scenario outlined by the FAO representative, we realize that biogas done right is at the center of a set of solutions that we should imagine for the future. Yes, undoubtedly, we wanted to have a contribution by a representative of FAO because we connect the idea of this important institution to food themes. And instead, FAO is strongly committed in the field of the growth of the request for energy. And this brings us back to what we have always worked on. Agriculture, farming has always produced energy and food. When they opened the Suez Canal and we started using fossil fuels, back then we thought that energy was not coming from the land, but the land in the past produced everything, materials, energy that we needed to have heat. And today biogas is a simple technology and also a technology that has always existed. And today you have wells where manure produces gas to cook in homes. That's how they do in certain places. And speaking with FAO, we do realize that we must produce more food, more energy, using less resources. That's the big challenge. And in the speech, the speaker stressed important points, investments, for example, training, themes on which FAO is working. It was a pleasure to have this type of contribution. Very, very interesting as a beginning for our today's, because the two elements, hand in hand, help us fight against climate change. It's the other challenge Mrs. Morese was mentioning. As soon as the connection with the Deputy Minister is ready, in the course of some seconds, we'll have the connection. Bear with us. And we will shed light on a specific theme, fiscal aspects. And Piero, I know that you worked a lot on the theme, and I believe that you've gotten to a very important result. We apologize because the Deputy Minister was scheduled to speak in the afternoon, but he has to speak before because he has to attend a meeting. I take some time while the minister is getting ready. I believe this is a clear-cut example of how the joint work between consortium, farming associations and producers was fundamental to shed light on a theme, specific theme. I'd like to say that we have today here with us our friends, producers, colleagues, members that over the past few years had to withstand uncertainty. Some territorial agencies actually put into question the calculation method of the taxation system of farming for the production of biogas, and this created big difficulties and also raised concern expressed by companies. And we wanted to have the presence of Deputy Minister Leo, thanks to his commitment. a negotiating table was organized together with the various ministries, and we have reached a result that will be explained by the Deputy Minister. Unfortunately, we don't get certain results so early because our companies would like to have a result immediately. Sometimes you have to be patient and keep on working till the result is achieved. And I say it because sometimes when you're part of an organization, it's easy to criticize the fact that results are not achieved. So as usual, our job cannot be considered just like the start of a Formula One race car, but how you get to the end is important. Yes, it's a different type of seasonality, and I mean the land, and you need some sort of concerted action involving many protagonists of the supply chain. As soon as the connection is ready, we will focus on the theme. And in the meantime, can I say, Piero, that we will have so many guests these 2 days, and without giving you a preview, you've joined together all the major protagonists in the field of biogas, agriculture, energy, renewable energy. It's extremely rich days. Yes. Our system is very complex. If you think about it, we produce energy, we use a technology that has a very important industrial component, industrial know-how, but at the same time we're farmers, we work the land, and we have to do with all the themes connected to sustainability, reducing the impact of every activity. So, keeping this world together represents a certain degree of complexity, but it's also very fascinating at the same time. So, yes, we have the theme of farming, energy, but also the impact of national rules, international regulations, and our initiatives must also be approved at a local level. I'm very glad that today we have local administrators who are present to have details about our sector, and we'll have a focus on social acceptance of anaerobic digestion. It's a wide-ranging program that tries to tackle all the aspects of our sector. Yes, and we'll have representatives, just like Piero said, representatives from the European Parliament, European National Parliament, so local administrators, and so many protagonists from the territory. That territory that sees the arrival of many protagonists. Now, it's 11:06, and the connection should be ready with the Deputy Minister. He was on the move, and perhaps he encountered some obstacles. Perhaps he was in a tunnel and he cannot get the connection. Now we'll have an update.
Ok, perfetto. Allora, intanto possiamo fare una cosa.
In the meantime, we can do something, Piero. So the cutting of the ribbon of these 2 days, you have a video. Yes, we have a video.
Finisco di intervistarti, così.
Facciamo un video e quindi ringrazio il team per questa cosa. Facciamo
We launch the video while we wait for the Vice Minister.
Ci hanno sempre chiesto di scegliere, natura o tecnologia.
They've always asked to choose between energy, farming, tradition, progress, but today we can have it all. Today we are innovators and guardians of our agricultural transition. Thanks to precision farming, we respect the land and reduce waste. In our livestock, we take care of animal well-being with a balanced nutrition, comfortable spaces, and thanks to biogas, biomethane, we transform waste into energy. And that's what farming has always done, giving new life to resources, giving back the land what belongs to the land. The ancient agricultural wisdom, with the help of technology, keeps on generating new value for homes, companies, for everybody. And the biogas cycle is an ally against climate change because digestate itself is a natural fertilizer that we use that allows to stock CO2, making the ground more fertile and the future more secure. Biogas is a symbol of farming that works for everybody. Advanced clean technology that joins progress, nature, innovation. Thanks to the technological factor, we can reduce waste, breathe clean air, feed our lives with sustainable, renewable, programmable energies. It's the progress that respects the land, the future that makes us live better. Today's farmers have changed and agricultural companies have changed. Today we don't have to make a choice between nature, animal well-being, fertility of the soil. We can have it all. Agriculture has changed and everybody gets a benefit from farming. And everybody gets a benefit from it. The cutting of the ribbon of these 2 days. So we said many things happened over the past few years, starting from biogas done right. And at this point, we have the Deputy Minister, Leo, connected with us. And we welcome him, Deputy Minister Maurizio Leo from the Ministry of Economics and Finance. We should see him shortly on the screen. Let's see if he can see us or if he can hear us. Here he is. Good morning, Deputy Minister. Good morning. Good morning. And we extend the greetings to you from a really crowded room here in Milan. We have so many protagonists and actors in the world of biogas. We have Piero Gattoni, the president of the Italian Biogas Consortium. Deputy Minister, short ago we spoke about what was done to shed light on the fiscality aspects. And can you tell us something, the taxation system, how you built this success story? So thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Greetings to all participants. Well, I'd like to summarize how we acted, because, as you know, the taxation system dates back to 2007, and in 2007 what did they say? To identify general tariff, we had to take into account the fee, but also the incentives, the two amounts. And what did it involve? The Income Revenue Authority adopted two measures in 2010 and in 2013. And so leveraging the feed-in tariff, well, the agency, the authority, stated that taxation and hence payment of taxation for those producing biogas net of the 2,000,004 kilowatts per hour. Well, it had to include the two amounts I mentioned before, but there was an evolution of the regulation in 2014. In 2014, we had some legislative measures that in 2014, 2015, and then the discipline was stabilized with the stability law for 2016, and the lawmaker changed the original rule dating back to 2005, and it was stated that for this type of production, and it is stated by the lawmaker specifically, obviously net of the 2.4 million kilowatts per hour that represents a franchise, and for the purpose of taxation of 25%, the incentive amount must be excluded. So we witnessed some sort of first regulation 2007, whereby the Income Revenue Authority with the regulation 2010-2013, the authority considered that the whole amount had to be taxed. So, what did I want to do? I said we have to shed light on the point because there was an evolution of regulations that has changed the scenario. And in full cooperation with the trade associations, I'd like to thank Coldiretti, Confartigianato, and all of such associations provided elements that were useful to get into the details of the theme, and I said, and the Income Revenue Authority, I said, we have to shed light on such points, and we then finally stated that the incentive of the feed-in tariff shouldn't be subject to any type of taxation, and as for the calculation of the taxation, well, we then apply that mechanism of the exemption for the 2.4 million kilowatts per hour and various types of calculations. Having said this, all the disputes that originated before are no longer here with us. And we have invited operators to specify something. That is to say, when you have disputes underway, disputes, at that point, you can ask for an offsetting of the expenses. There was a situation of uncertainty that originated in 2007, and both amounts seem to be the basis for the taxation, but the regulation in 2013 solved the matter, and you can ask the judge, if you have pending disputes, to have an offsetting of the expenses for the trial. And I'd like to thank again trade associations starting from Coldiretti and all the three confederations. We've been able to bring home a result, shedding clarity on a theme which is very important for you.
And this is along the lines of the approach that we want to adopt in our fiscal reform, that wishes to give certainties to taxpayers and fight against tax evasion, and that is aimed at reducing the taxation pressure. So this is what our government, of course, wishes to promote. This is the reference framework. Thank you, Vice Minister. Your words were welcomed by a round of applause here in Milan, because we needed these clarification. I would like to thank the Vice Minister. We know that there is a Council of Ministers meeting, but we thank him for being with us, and we thank him for all the work they did. This clarification was much needed, but we realized that our interlocutors have understood our needs and have helped us deepen all this from a technical perspective. I think that this government, under your direction, is already taking action vis-à-vis many aspects in this changing farming sector. Our farming sector is opening up new challenges and frontiers, so we need to have the right interlocutors to be able to understand how we can face the growth of our farms based on a clear approach and clear rules for us to be able to make investments. What we were concerned about as the CIB was that this uncertainty will not just affect the present, but that it would be also something that will continue to affect us in the future, causing great concern. I don't think farmers want to go to court. This is not the goal on which we worked ever. So I'm here to thank you warmly for initiating this, for pursuing this initiative that had been there for a long time, and that allows us, farms to have a clear regulatory framework based on which to work. Thank you, Vice Minister, and I wish to thank you too, because the farming world has always been close to our hearts, to the point that we have passed a legislative decree that has already been turned into law, which provides for mechanisms that would promote new farming productions. I'm thinking about vertical farming, hydroponics. For us, the farming sector is strategic, and it should be helped and promoted to the benefit of the entire nation. So thank you again, and all the best for this conference. Thank you, Vice Minister. So, thank you, Vice Minister Maurizio Leo. May I add something? Well, before we end with this important part of our meeting, it's important for us, for our members, of course, but I would like to thank the farming organizations that allowed us to reach these results. But I want to thank two people in particular, Caterina Nigo, first of all, and engineer Christian Kulisi, who are the director and the person in charge of the managing CIB of the CIB area that deals with these topics. So thank them, and thank you also Mr. Guido Marchese, Mr. Iorio, who are the professionals who have accompanied us along this journey. I think that this is the role to be played by a consortium such as ours, so not just have a good structure, but also to collaborate with the best professionals in the field. Thank you, Piero. Thank you for all this teamwork that has led to a very, very important result for so many people. And then many things have happened, as we said, over the years during the life of this consortium. One of them was the establishment of a foundation called Farming for Future. And here with us, we have a person who's going to tell us about all that this foundation does. We have with us Mrs. Diana Lenzi, who is the president of this foundation. I have a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Good morning. It's always a great pleasure to be here with you at Biogas Italy, and to be here as the president of the Farming for Future Foundation. If you do not know us, we are, let's say, we are the Eve that was created through the side of the CIB. Anyway, I decided to begin by asking some question. If we were to walk out on the streets and if we met, let's say, a young boy or girl, 14 years old, and we asked them, what do you think about today's farming? What would they tell us? If we asked them, would you ever work in the farming sector? What would these 14 years old tell us in reply? And if we were to ask them, what skills would you need today to work in the farming sector? Do you have any idea? Well, we, the foundation, are that new voice that wishes to make sure that these young persons may receive answers and that they may find these answers to mirror the 10 actions that the CIB has developed when the CIB created the Farming for Future model and the Biogas Done Right model. Too often we forget the essential role that farming has in our daily lives and in our economy, of the role that it may play, and it does play, in the energy and farming evolution, and also in connection with a more sustainable future. So being able to produce in tune with the resources that we see from nature is essential to grant food and healthy food to everybody, and also clean energy. Another thing we tend to forget, and that is underestimated, is how this sustainable production model is not something that we need to create, or that it's something that is only coming to the future, or it is a dream. It's already there. It's already been created. It's here. It's available to everybody. But of course, there are some difficulties that we must be able to tackle. Farming is not just a matter of food production, or food production is not the only element making farming essential, because farming, yes, provides primary production, but it's also that essential element in the agri-food chain. Without farming, you cannot produce food. But farming also produces interconnected services that are underestimated. It protects the territories. It protects their morphology, their well-being, and also it protects the economic viability of land in this world which is increasingly globalized and interconnected, and that is always so insecure and uncertain. Every day we seem to see a different scenario that we need to deal with. Well, in this scenario, the ability to produce food, energy, and resources autonomously is absolutely essential. And it's not just a matter of quantity of food produced that we know, of course, this is important, but also it's the quality of the food that we have that is important. The fact that the food that we produce is certified from the standpoint of intrinsic qualities, but also in terms of the production chain, production process, making it possible to produce it, and that management of natural resources that allows nature to continue to produce. That producing in a balanced way I was referring to, but then to be able to develop and to disseminate these sustainable solutions, we need technologies that allow us to improve production, to monitor our possibility to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, increasing biodiversity, and protecting rural communities. And to do this, we must be able to develop together with the research world, and we must also be able to have access to technologies that produce and promote sustainability. So what we have here today, outside this room, the technologies that are presented here, are those that made it possible for the biogas world to implement those 10 actions that were proposed by the CIB. But it's not just something that can be applied to the biogas world. All this can also represent a model and an inspiration for the entire farming sector that must find in this spirit, in this idea, this way of thinking farming, that idea of a farming done right. So the notion of farming done right is based on a vision that we may consider as integrated and innovative at the same time, going beyond traditional practices, acting in a responsible manner, using technologies that make it possible for us to be more sustainable, promoting farming diversity, and what defines agriculture looking to the future. But again, this is not something that we will do in the future. It's a type of farming. It's a farming model, and this is essential, and this is what young people must understand. This farming model already exists. It's already there. And this is something that has to be illustrated and disseminated. Ecologic transition does not just concern the biogas system and its technologies, but on the contrary, it involves the entire farming system, starting from good daily practice to the management of soil, land, fertility, natural resources. And the emerging technologies are those that can allow us to make sure that these development models can also create different income models. So we can be productive, we can be profitable. We must be if we want to attract new resources from the world. Everything looks great and attractive, but we cannot deny the fact that there are some difficulties in accessing technologies, geographical and economic differences, bureaucratic barriers, high costs, limited access to funding and to information. All these are real challenges. These are not just, a list of grudges, but these are not even barriers that cannot be overcome. If we look at the world of resources, economic resources for this transition are there, and even today think about that SME has made available another 75 million euros. But what happens is that these resources, because of the way in which access is organized, are difficult to access precisely. They're complicated. It's almost as if you were discouraged to access these resources. And this, of course, leads to resistance on the part of the sector members. In addition to high costs and therefore difficult to tackle, we must also remember that it's also the problem of training. So young people do not possess certain skills, and we do know that we need skilled people. So we need resources to integrate innovative resources within a production process, but this is not there. So today we are going to listen to representatives of the world of research and also from the world of entrepreneurship. So there is a world of research, then the world of applied research. This is a transition that should be easy, but it's not. In this transition, there is really a terrible gap to be bridged. The no uptake gap. But again, I want to underscore this. I think it's very important to look at all these matters from a different perspective, because we have showed here that despite difficulties, critical issues, barriers, costs, we have managed to show that this model was implemented. It's here. It is something concrete. It is available to everybody. Farming done right is what can unite tradition and innovation, and that does not fear challenges, but it tackles them with great determination. Technologies and technologies are just instruments, tools that are created when you decide you want to find a solution to a problem. So if they're not useful for something or to something, they're they're useless, pointless, especially if they do not find entrepreneurs, people and dreamers who really want to produce better. And if there are no such people, this is going to be lost. I would like to end by sharing with you a thought that I am a wine grower and I've learned so much from you, but I do feel at home here. Well, what you are, this audience, this ability to aggregate people, this two-day event is an excellence, and you are a pioneering agent. You're like a beacon that allows us to look to the future, to understand how we want to produce for tomorrow. But to do that, we need to make sure that the world of politics eliminates those barriers which make it impossible for you to excel. And this is what we want to do. This is the role of our foundation. Our foundation is committed to bringing through information and data that we are collecting, research studies that are being funded now and in the future. So we want to provide voice, information and data to the world of politics so that they may develop policies and fiscal instruments that can be beneficial and to the farming sector. Particularly, we want to involve the men on the street. We want to make sure that young people, men and women, understand all the beauty of farming done right. So I do, though, feel that there is this huge gap between what was done and those who did it, and those who do not know anything about it, between those who would like to implement all this and don't know how to do it, and between those who should make all this possible and those who, like you, every day put their hearts into this and their faith into this. So thank you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Grazie davvero a Diana.
Thank you, Diana Lenzi. Thank you. She's the president of the Farming for Future Foundation. Thank you for the passion that you put in your words and that you put every day in your work. And thank you also for what you told us today about, and thank you for the way in which you described this world. And as Diana said, it's such a varied, extraordinary world, so fascinating, that it truly deserves to go well beyond the current boundaries. So President Lenzi was saying researchers, the world of research, and then entrepreneurs, those who work every day on the field in the true, as it is. So let us begin from research scientists, those who work on innovation, to make sure that the technological factor becomes increasingly relevant to our future. So I would like to the podium three professors who come from the world of research and the university. The first is Fabrizio Adani, David Chiaromonti and Angelo Frascarelli. So let us welcome to the stage Fabrizio Adani, a process expert, the biological processes expert. So good morning to all of you. I will state the names again. Professor Fabrizio Adani, University of Milan. It's also sunny today in Milan, so it's quite remarkable. It seemed to have become a thing of the past. He's an expert in biological processes, recycling of nutrients and productions of renewable fertilizers. Then Professor Chiaramonti from the Polytechnic of Turin, an expert in advanced technologies for the production of renewable fuels, biological ones and not only. He's very active at European level. And then there is Professor Angelo Frascarelli from the University of Perugia. He's an expert in economics, farming policies, market trends, and also is an expert in the CAP. I will begin with Professor Adani. We are now going to talk about innovation and how research can promote technological development. What are the themes which research today is focusing on to continue bringing innovation such as those that we saw in the past 20 to 30 years, which have led people such as those who are here to do farming in a very different way.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks a lot to the organizers. It's always nice to meet friends. I see many people with whom we started the whole process 20 years ago. The importance of research is fundamental. We are here thanks also to research. At the beginning, research was mainly focused on biogas. I see Lorella Rossi and other friends with whom we shared the first line of research. Now we have a new phase. We just heard the words by the president of the foundation. And so we go from biogas to biogas done right, farming done right. Biogas becomes a fundamental central element to try and carry out regenerative, sustainable farming. At this point, and then technological aspects will be tackled by my colleagues. we must focus on some aspects. I'd like to raise criticism to the world of research and perhaps also to the non-research world. First of all, it's important to have scientific data. Researchers are not boring. We are credible in Europe, but also towards consumers if we can submit numbers that clearly show that what was stated is true. And I know it's true because I've been working in the world of biogas for years. So we've been saying it for 20 years. Biogas is biomethane, but it's digestate. Digestate is something important, but with research, through research, we must show that digestate can replace chemical fertilizers. Digestate is organic substance of the soil, and we must identify the effect on the biome of the soil, and it then becomes research on the control of pathogens. And so if research was at the beginning at the service of biogas production, now research instead should identify scientific numbers that prove to citizens, FAO, the world community, that biogas is central, and you don't have biogas done right, but farming done right. Criticism to the world of research. The world of research should remember that research is at the service of the manufacturing world. We must produce. Remember, the new Green Deal failed. And there was some sort of excessive environmental support. And so also research should be highly focused. And research instead should make available knowledge that then becomes innovation, but they should also support production. The world of research should be concrete and pragmatic. I always say it, scientific data then should become something extremely pragmatic that should lead to specific results. That's very important. And then the development of biofertilizer supply chain projections by research and marketing centers say that by 2035 there will be a yearly increase of 10% of the need for biofertilizers. For the world of biogas, it means an alternative, a possibility to be present in a sector, production of organic fertilizers, because farming will go towards sustainability with at the center organic fertilizers, and biogas is a biotechnology that produces organic fertilizers. I shouldn't simply say it. It means, what does it mean? It means creating custom-made fertilizers and understanding what it entails, integrating them with microorganisms. It's an upgrade, something more complex, and then you have a strong market and you have an economic result again for biogas itself. I stop here. If we want to go back to some other aspects, we can do so later. And I don't want to take time away. So to summarize, we started 30 years ago. We produced biogas, so we could produce it. We got to biogas done right. Now we speak about farming done right. And I'd like to remind you, I do not want to be boring, that research must produce data. We're working at a national European level whereby you can have the production of numbers convincing the community that what we say is true. And research must be carried out, and the production world needs a figure from us. Figures will be submitted to politicians, and politicians will make pressures with scientific data. At the basis of it all, you should have something highly scientific, because, lies are lies, and research instead should produce specific, pragmatic facts. Thank you so much, Professor. And let's start from here. Professor Chiaramonti, what are you focusing on at the Milan Polytechnic University, Professor? Turin Polytechnic University, sorry. I'd like to thank the organizers and all of our friends that I see here. And we've been working on such themes for 30 years, and I do agree. However, there's a small note before cutting to the chase. Going back to what Fabrizio said, I came back from Brussels yesterday night. In the afternoon, I participated in a TV program on the theme of biofuels yesterday. We carry out research. We've been carrying out research for long, based also on the indications of operators. There's a but. We can create a wonderful scientific publication, provide data, but the step mentioned by Fabrizio, that is to say, those technical data should be put on the tables of politicians, and it's not easy, it's not taken for granted, and universities don't usually submit scientific data to politicians' negotiating tables where decisions are made, and it's another dimension, and entities just like the consortium should help us do this job, because we on our own, on the average, we cannot do it. We created the scenarios of the European Commission that you find in the portal. We from the Turin Polytechnic University work on future modeling and sustainability. We identified the potential of biogas. For Europe, we have highly significant values for Europe. And this report was requested by the Commission. It was not our proposal. And we carried out this report. But now the problem is as follows. This report, will it get to Parliament and to the other general directorates of the Commission? And it's difficult because transferring such concepts to the political world is difficult. And what else do we work on? Yes, technology, just like Fabrizio said. In the case of gas, yes, we have the pyrolysis of methane to create hydrogen and carbon, so that such institutions can become less polluting. Yes, digestate. Digestate will be the theme of the future. Today the theme is represented by carbon, and it's so powerful, and much more than people usually think. We have big potential to remove carbon through the enhancement of digestate. It's no easy thing, of course, and by the end of this year, carbon removal, carbon farming, it's an action of DG Climate. At the end of this year, we will have a regulatory system that will be formal, and the theme on which research should be focused is this: for at least the next 10 years, research and development. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you so much, really. Hot themes of research, but then everything has to be translated into specific actions, pragmatic actions. Now, Professor Frascarelli is an expert at CAP. Will it also be dealing with renewables in farming? What does it contain? We have two good news. after listening to what has been said so far. First of all, what was said by President Lenzi, she made an example. A young man, a young woman that I meet on the road, can farming be appealing? Do you know what the name of the European Commission document on the new CAP? The first document, January 19th, it is called an agricultural sector that is appealing for future generations. It might seem strange that it says appealing for future generations. It's a big problem all over Europe, also in Italy. And in the area of Parmesan cheese, where income is good, companies close. Yes, because you don't have the youth. You don't have young people willing to work in the field. So that's one point. And another positive news in the document of February 19th, 20 days ago, please read it. They speak about biogas, not so much, but they speak about biogas. And the document says interesting opportunities for the production of renewables that improves energy security, reduces greenhouse gases, and it provides income for farmers, additional income for farmers. And farmers should be independent in terms of energy thanks to solar panels, biogas, and offer their energy products on the market. It's clear that the European Union has a clear idea about the direction. We want to produce more. We said it this morning. And environmental transition and energy transition. The European Union repeats it so often, and however, it's not taken for granted. We take it for granted in this audience, but if we go outside, it's not taken for granted. More and more people speak about production and the environment, production and energy, creating an opposition between these two terms, energy and the environment, because if I use a photovoltaic panel, I destroy the environment. It's not so. Outside, in the agricultural world, such oppositions are negative. We have to produce more. We have to produce more food, more energy, and more environment. And from this perspective, the Draghi report is so interesting. And documents have been written down about the policies of the future. Refer to two reports written by two Italians, the one on competitiveness written by Mario Draghi, and the other one on the internal market written by Enrico Letta. And sometimes you should be proud of what we are as Italians. And this Draghi report states that we're vulnerable when we're dependent. And so for these three elements, food, energy, and the environment, where are we more dependent? Ironically, we are in a better position in the field of food. It's right to speak about food sovereignty because we should always be careful. But for 40 years, Europe hasn't had problems of food procurement, and we've been self-sufficient since 1980. We're the biggest exporters in the world, and Trump levies duties on agricultural products because we export to the USA. In terms of food, we have to be vigilant because we should never set aside control. But in the field of energy, we're more dependent. If we had had a European policy for energy along with the CAP, we're self-sufficient for food because we've had CAP for 62 years. If we had had an energy policy, probably today we wouldn't be in such conditions. And for the environment, we are in an intermediate situation. We are in a good position in terms of food, but not so well in terms of energy. And so we should do the three things together. And just 5 words, 5 important words. How can we, in terms of research, attain such 3 objectives: food, energy, and the environment? First of all, genetics. Somebody may criticize me. I don't know if my colleagues agree with me, but genetics is fundamental. Genome editing is fundamental. And unfortunately, there's a lot of opposition. Regenerative farming is very important. The soil is very important. And we still have somebody that defends the plow. It must be buried. I know that many people will criticize me. And you said it before. Biostimulants, natural pesticides, biofertilizers are fundamental. It's true, Green Deal was wrong in terms of timing, but that's the aim. We should replace pesticides with biosolutions. The other point is digitalization. It's fundamental, and we have many farmers that are against the digital campaign. Can we oppose digital campaigns in 2025? One last element is represented by circular economy, that is to say, fighting against the waste. These are 5 research lines: genetics, regenerative farming, biosolutions, digitalization, commercial, and circular economy. Thanks a lot, Professor Fascarelli. And before leaving you, a very quick question. What's the perspective if you were to speak with a student that has just started your course? What's the advice you would give to your student to be better prepared for the future? Going back to what was stated before by the President and also what was stated by Fascarelli, we should make students understand that farming is innovation. And so you have the desire, again, to work in the field of farming. Speaking about biofertilizers, it means speaking about biotechnology. So it's the graduates in agrarian sciences should be cognizant with molecular biology, genetics, bioeconomics. The perspectives is completely different. Unfortunately, we have a dated idea of farming. In the video shown by the President was wonderful. It showed the countryside. It seemed to be in Tuscany, and that's the perspective we should have for farming. That's what the European community says. And in my opinion, we can cherish hopes, but we should convey a different image. I'm an agronomist. I married a physician, and my wife asked me, why do you live in Milan? In her opinion, I should have lived in the middle of the countryside, completely dirty. That's not the objective. Thank you so much, Professor Adami.
Io normalmente agli studenti.
Well, I normally tell my engineer students, do not think as an engineer, and this is the typical example. What is important is the chain, the sector, the context in which you place your technologies, and very often an excessively specialized view makes you lose sight of the broader picture. So we must keep our minds open, we must try to understand what we are doing in what context. We have talked about the common agricultural policy, but there are many directives such as the ETS, the Directive on Energy, international directives and rules. We have not talked about internationality, but we are a small region in a world which is so much bigger and which is going also in very different directions. So I would tell students, keep your mind open and try to understand why you're doing something, the overall context, and there you will find opportunities. Thank you, Professor Fascarelli. What can we conclude? Well, we can talk about digital competencies and skills. In this connection, we are lagging behind, and what I think is that if an agronomist possesses digital skills, he or she will find a job immediately, giving a great contribution to the future of our country. So thank you so much to our three guests, Professor Adani, Professor Chiaramonte, and Professor Frascarelli. The world of research is essential for everything that has to do to access to technologies and the development of new technologies, which, however, then have to be used by someone. Now we want to look at the other side of our coin. So entrepreneurs, those who work every day on the field, those who apply the new technologies every day in the world of farming. So I'm going to invite over here our protagonists, the protagonists of this part of the session, this morning session. And let us welcome our guests, Emma Cogrossi from the Cogrossi company, Gloria Andretta, who is here with us from the Andretta company, and Caterina Luppa from Iraci Borgia, another farming enterprise, and Federica Basile and Marina Reale. So welcome to all of you. I have briefly introduced you, randomly really. So, first of all, allow me to welcome you. Let us give a round of applause to our protagonists from the world of technology and from their respective chains. We shall try and understand how, in your daily work, these technologies we have talked about are actually used. I will begin with Emma Cogrossi, who is here. She has this farming company, Cogrossi, that was one of the first to invest in the biogas plant sector. So, how did you begin this revolution at the time, and how are you continuing to introduce innovation and technologies in your farm? Good morning to everybody. Thank you for inviting me. For me, after being a spectator at Biogas Italy, well, it's the first time I'm here now on stage. The biogas plant of my family was began in 2004, and it started being operating in 2005. At the time, for my family, it was a very courageous choice to be made in a sector that was fast changing, that was very little known from a regulatory and management perspective. At the time, I was a little girl. I was going to elementary school, so I can say that I grew up in a dynamic environment where all this was seen as an opportunity rather than a threat. I think that at the time my family was not aware of all the potential of biogas. Of course, it was a matter of producing energy, clean energy, but all the other advantages were seen over time, starting with the enhancement of our produce, also during the years when the market price was not favorable, and we discovered many things. We improved our productions, we turned waste from precisely a waste to a resource. So we discovered the use of digestate, and over the past 20 years our company has evolved. Undoubtedly, we changed our fields, we changed our farming practices, reducing intervention. We improved the use of digestate. We reduced by 80% the purchase of fertilizers. This has had a very good impact financially and from an environmental standpoint. Another potential element in biogas is that of being able to plan out. So unlike other renewable energy sources, you can actually plan how much biogas to produce. And as a family and as an enterprise, we decided to invest in the past few years also in the agri-photovoltaic sector. So on the same piece of land, we put together the production of energy and the production of foodstuff for our stables. Of course, there are many difficulties that are common to so many other farming entrepreneurs. First of all, climate change. We are lucky. I live in the Lodigiano area, and our area has not yet been strongly affected even though in the past few years we have undoubtedly had to deal with drought and then excessive rain, flooding, and we've also seen that there is a problem in terms of manpower. It's difficult to find young workers, motivated ones, and that is why I think it's important to attract young people who come out of technical schools. Many young people still have a very old-fashioned perception of our sector. When they leave school, they do not even consider it. Another critical element is represented by uncertainty at the regulatory level. We've seen in the past few years with the extra profits. As a farmer, an entrepreneur, I feel a bit overwhelmed by all the decisions that have to be made, and also I'm overwhelmed by the uncertainty that the future holds. And I find some comfort in keeping informed as much as I can, and whenever I can I speak with my colleagues, because together sometimes we can come up with new ideas or find solutions to common issues. The world in which we live continues to move on and we cannot stop it. So it's better to try and keep ourselves up to date and it's important for us to make our companies increasingly resilient and sustainable. Well, thank you. Thank you for your words, and we wish to commend you for your passion. Perhaps we should create a new term, a new word. Biogas has been with us for a few years, but enough to have our first bioenergy natives, such as we have digital natives, we have also bioenergy natives. So thank you so much for your words. You have talked about the challenges that you face every day. But we have with us also Gloria Andretta from the Andretta Farming Enterprise. Miss Andretta, so what do you do? Where do you come from? Where are you actually positioned? We are in Venetia. We were among the first to set up a biogas plant. We followed suit the Cogrossi family. So you were among the pioneers. Well, I wasn't at elementary school. I was already a bit older than that. And so my father was the first. Then, because I'm the daughter of an entrepreneur of a farming sector, I did not really have any passion for it. I saw him as a farmer, but thanks to a biogas plant, I started thinking differently, and that the fact that you had to possess specific skills, you had to study and learn every day, innovate, develop in order to improve our farm. And in fact, in addition to the biogas plant, and I'm not going to repeat because, of course, I totally share what my colleague said, but 3 years ago we also started producing biomethane, liquid biomethane, with the CO2 capture, which is a great challenge indeed, and it's not so easy because in addition to technology, there is there's a part that is related to sustainability and a whole new world, which is very complex to understand. But we study, of course, and then there are reference professionals that can help you, and they help us move forward. As far as technology is concerned, we have embedded it in our company because we 4.0, well, we do have so many tools such as the tractors and all other tools that are required to work in the fields and to produce the straw, etc. Hay. They're all 4.0. It's not easy to use this machinery because our manpower is not skilled. We do not find skilled workers. I have a 17-year-old son who has decided to continue along our way. So he studies in an agrarian university, and he told me, well, we study the farming of the farmer on the field. We are not told or taught about technology. So in these farming schools, you still study things as though farmers were still using the plow, but this does not longer exist. I'm sure that also at the educational level, we should make young persons and professors understand that there should be a transition and update school curricula because they're totally outdated, because this too perhaps would allow young persons to fall in love with this field and understand that this job is not something that you take for granted or it's some type of humble, job, but you actually need such high skills. I mean, even higher than you would find in other sectors in the market. So thank you so much. You didn't tell us what you produce, though. Well, my father always tells me that we are farmers, cattle raisers, and system developers. So we have got cattle raising, we produce cereals, biomethane, photovoltaic, power energy. So you do everything practically. But here we also have our friends from the Iraci Borgia friends. We have Caterina Lupa from this farming enterprise. Good morning. So I was told that you have some great projects that are related to what we were talking about, digestate, organic fertilizers, and that entire new world, this entire new frontier. Well, yes. Good morning to everybody. We also have a biogas plant. We are located in Umbria, province of Perugia. We do not produce wine in Bavaria. We just produce energy, and we focused on enhancing digestate, and we are lucky because our fields are our own and they are close to our farm. So through a pumping system, we can expand digestate without having a problem in terms of transporting it. And of course, we don't have to spend money on lorries to use this digestate on the field. So we have fields that would suffer from having to use a barrel cart, a gantry, because it would compact the soil. So what we are doing is we are trying to implement this system not just for our farm but for the entire territory. So we want to sell our digestate, this fertilizer. But as the professors were saying earlier, this is also an excellent regenerative farming practice. So this would really benefit our lands in general. I don't know if you have other questions. Well, I wanted to know if also from your perspective, this new production model, this what we call the technological factor, has an impact or not. Well, in my opinion, it's what my colleagues were saying earlier. Things are as they were saying. The fact that you have a biogas plant over the years has helped farms. In the past, my family produced tobacco. It was a traditional farm, and we moved to having a profitable plant. So, if your farm is doing well, you can make investments that other farms cannot carry out. This is important because if you think about Industry 4.0, you can buy machinery, tools, you can also implement more innovative projects, cooperate with universities. If you have a strong foundation, you have an advantage. We do have projects that we conduct with universities, in cooperation with universities. So we always manage to be very lively, let's say, as a company in terms of what we do. And a project that we have been developing and that I am responsible for specifically is that we developed technologies aimed at raising insects on an industrial scale, implementing this circular economy. So what we produce is a soldier fly, a type of fly. So we use the biogas heat, the heat produced by the biogas plant. Then we grow these larvae, which are then turned into protein for feed production. So this is a circular economy project that was developed within our farm. We've got investors, It's no longer a project that we only carry out. So it has expanded, but this project was created within the framework of our farm. So you see how generation after generation farms evolve. Let us now pass on to Fattoria della Piana. We have here with us Federica Basile. Fattoria della Piana is a cooperative as well as a virtuous example of integration of activities among different activities, precisely production of cheeses exported worldwide. It's an educational farm. As far as education is concerned, we're talking about education, and you arrived in this farm and you promoted technological development and adoption. Well, after earning my degree, I left Calabria and I went abroad, as many young Italian people do, but after 3 years in Amazon, I decided to go back to Calabria, and I decided to go back to the company that was part of my family, which is Fattoria della Piana. I have to say that undoubtedly there was a lot of technology in Amazon, but after 7 years in my farm, I can say that the farming sector is no less technological. It needs technology and innovation. So a round of applause, because from California to Calabria is quite a change, isn't it? Well, in another panel, I was talking about all the technological changes introduced in our company. And since 2018, when I got there, from the fields to the lorries that deliver the cheeses, going to the points of sale, there was a change everywhere. Whether we are speaking about robots in milking or other technologies introduced in the production of cheeses, well, there was so much new technology introduced that it's really pervasive. This is something that is common to all our companies. I don't think you can do farming today unless you introduce technology in it. And this for us was absolutely essential. And in doing so, however, we clashed with the fact that we are in the province of Reggio Calabria. The place is beautiful, Città del Mare. I see so many people I know here among the members of the audience, and I know that many of them came to visit us, suppliers, friends, and very often they come to Reggio Calabria. They travel a lot to come and visit our farm. So we do have a certain distance between us, physical distance between us and many other areas, and there are distances also that concern technological aspects. But I have to say that we are in an area that is marked by very many small farms that have got difficulties from a financial standpoint, and often these small farms would have to manage their byproducts by polluting because they didn't have the money, let's say, to manage all this waste in the appropriate manner. Over the years, we worked to create a network.
And we have companies that give us agricultural byproducts, small producers in the world of oranges and olives, but also in the wine-making sector, agricultural productions. And in practice, we have all the waste of agriculture get into our biogas system, and we've tried to convince people that it's right to make the right choice. We do not give value to their waste, but we go and collect their waste. But we try and enhance digestate. We give them digestate. We improve logistics. There was some sort of byproduct supply chain, and our truck leaves our premises full of digestate, gets to a cellar where they upload marc, and then marc is used for the production of spirits, and then marc is then transported to our premises again. Also in the case of digestate, we try and make available the know-how, but also the equipment for farmers in our area, whereby they can use digestate and use less other types of fertilizers. That's what we worked on. It's not a technology, it's an innovative process. And now I see the picture of the team, and we are far from technology, and that's also why we have also a distance from those that can help us technology-wise. That's why we have set up our team, 130 people working in our premises every day, 130 collaborators, fundamental for the development of our unit. And they prove every day that environmental but also social sustainability should go through farming. That's a fundamental lesson that we have learned, and we are very grateful. And so the hashtag Calabria with its innovative procedure can thrive. From the north to the south, we've gone from the north to Calabria, and let's go northwards, Campania, with our friends from Azienda Agricola Letizia. Good morning. I'm an agronomist. I come from Naples, from a city. Just like the professor. From the city, then to the countryside. Then I married my husband, and his company includes so many buffaloes. We go from the world of cotton to the world of buffaloes. I have so much fun with biogas. We strongly believe in sustainability, and I spread digestate, and I also have a mini video. Yes, so let's play the mini video at this point. We now see some pictures of the company, of the systems, of the plans, and let's see if you can play the video. Yes, here I'm distributing feed for the animals. It was a challenge. I'm an agronomist, but I never had the opportunity to live in the countryside and cattle. It was a challenge. We have a biogas system, 100 kilowatt system that we exclusively feed with the waste of a corporate center. We have 4 corporate centers, and the waste serum coming from the production of mozzarella cheese, we export it all over the world. And to me, research is fundamental. Why? Because the buffalo sector is completely different than the cattle sector. There's no research in the buffalo sector. Also, in the case of digestate, if you think about buffalo waste, it's different in terms of composition compared to waste from cattle. And we strongly believe in the world of research, and especially we in the south had some initial difficulties and challenges. We started the bureaucratic procedure for biogas in 2004, and also the various administrations considered us to be a polluting industry. Then we became a sustainability model for the territory, but also for the environmental, but also social management, because people realized that through correct information that such systems are sustainable models. And we are innovators, but also at the same time guardians of our territories, of the land. A fundamental aspect is represented by this point. You should have a higher degree, better communication. In the south, perhaps we are a bit efficient because we don't establish networks, we don't cooperate. Some plans created consortia and created denitrification towers. Something is being done. The development in Campania of renewables is growing. However, we need support. We need to be supported, and we should launch a positive message from the use of renewables and specifically biogas. Thank you so much. Do we have another video? Yes. It's what you said before. I don't know if they can play the video. There it is. Spreading of solid digestate. Are you driving? Yes, I'm driving. Follow me on Instagram because I publish so many videos when I drive the tractor. March 15th will be present in a very famous Italian program. What's your name on Instagram? Marina Reale. So I will follow you immediately. Wonderful. So, one last big applause for innovation in farming, and applause for the extraordinary passion of these 5 entrepreneurs. Thank you so much. Congratulations, really. Extraordinary passion that they have expressed, inspiring their companies. But once again and once more, innovation is at the core of their actions. At this point, right in time, we've gotten to the conclusions of our first morning, and we invite here the president of Coldiretti, Ettore Prandini. Good morning and welcome. And we should also have together with him the president of ANB, Nicola Gherardi. Good morning, Gherardi. And then we'll have a message from the minister, Lollobrigida, that we will play shortly. Good morning, welcome. Please take a seat. Well, first of all, this last panel perhaps was the best welcome for those representing trade associations and representing workers that each day spend their own lives working in their own companies, in the fields, trying to innovate. I'd like to start with you, Mr. Prandini. You came here to Biogas Italy for the first time in 2019, 6 years ago. And for some years now, you have started embracing this approach to farming. What to expect for the present, but especially for the future? For sure, it was a moment of exchange, and from this perspective, I should thank Piero Gattoni for the continuous contributions and reflections on the needs of the biogas world back then. We didn't speak so much about biomethane. I remember about some commitments I expressed in the first meeting organized, and such commitments had to do with the following points: giving life, for example, to existing plants, and we've been successful in doing it, apart from the theme of incentives, and I believe that everything can be perfected continuously, but the challenge back then was to set up a mechanism with the government that didn't pay so much attention, not just in terms of giving life to existing plants, but also paving the way to set up new systems. And I remember the negotiations we had with the then Minister for Economic Development to give the possibility to set up new plants to 300 kilowatts. We kept on working on the theme of taxation systems. And allow me to say something. In our country, everybody is boasting, but the work we did with Piero Gattoni and Marchese, who is an accountant, was for sure interested because he followed directly companies that might have been penalized by a wrong interpretation of taxation systems. We worked immediately with the minister, with Giancarlo Giorgetti, but then with Leo, and with the Ministry of Agriculture, and we could get a clear-cut answer shedding light on the daily life of our entrepreneurs, the operations carried out by our entrepreneurs. But everything doesn't end here. We have so many opportunities to exploit. Just to briefly mention two of them. First one, the way we interpret today systems in terms of incentives. And today we've just thought about fixed incentive, irrespective of the value and type of plant. Now it's the right time to modulate the offer of energy for those that withdraw energy and have an additional premium for the incentives that we get, and creating mechanisms whereby production can further increase production capacity that systems have today. So it's an evolution to interpret what the market needs and has. Why should we do it today? Because we are in a historic moment, in a turning point, and also in the next few years, unfortunately, the cost of energy will hardly decrease. And so the contribution that we can give with what is being done by farming and systems managed directly by agricultural companies, all of this is important for us, and we can give more income to entrepreneurs. And I'd like to add something. The exchange up until now has been at a national level, and instead now we have to have an exchange within Europe. In the extraordinary contributions of the previous panel, everybody spoke about digestate. If you well remember, when I took the floor the first time, I raised the point of digestate as a central element in terms of development and in terms of sustainability, and strictly connected to the activity being carried out by agricultural companies, not just in a specific territory where they are present, but digestate is a fertilizer that can be integrated also with chemical manure, and so you can transform what was considered to be a problem into a big economic opportunity that can be enhanced. So what should we do? In the case of digestate, we've taken important steps, and together with the Draghi government, I remember a meeting I had with the then President of the Council when he asked me what the government could do in terms of energy response, as costs were soaring back then, plus 250% in some cases, and even beyond. And so I proposed to be bold enough to convinced the Ministry of the Environment to approve the rule on digestate, and we were successful. And today it has to be approved by Europe, and thanks to our human personal exchanges, we've been able to speak with the Hanse Commissioner and especially with the Deputy Minister of the Commission Fito, that plays a fundamental role for agricultural policies, and we convinced Raffaele Fito to have in the outline document the theme of digestate as a central element for farming and existing systems. So have we stopped there? No, we kept on working. I'd like to mention an additional step. I'd like to take a step backwards. We made an agreement with the University of Milan, and Professor Adani spoke before, and the professor submitted technical documents proving that digestate becomes an instrument whereby we can remove ammonia and in animal husbandry activities, and so we will have fertilization of the soil, and no fertilizer, even chemical fertilizer, can offer such conditions, just like digestate. We worked with Minister Lollobrigida because you have at that point an exchange with CREA. CREA becomes central, apart from the University of Milan, to get an authorization from Europe to get to the first two regions that declared to be available, Lombardy and Lazio, to start testing in the field on the use of digestate and going beyond the limit of vulnerable areas, and creating a mechanism whereby by crop absorption I give that crop what it needs, but with an entrepreneurial approach. I decide what I give, and law limit shouldn't impose the use of chemical fertilizers instead of digestate. We'll keep on working in the next few hours also in European venues whereby what I've just told you in pragmatic terms can become soon a fact and an additional instrument to improve the work of our companies. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, really. To the president of Coldiretti, Grandini. I will go back to you shortly. And at this point, President Gerardi, president of ANB and member of the Confagricoltura Council, you participated in the debates on the sector of gas. Which were the criticalities of the moment, of this historic moment, and especially what do you need to hit the objective of PNIEC?
Good morning to everybody. I would like to thank the organizers and our friend Piero Gattoni. We've been friends for many years and we have shared so many experiences together. I would like to give you a snapshot of where we stand, even though this morning all the presentations have already outlined a picture. Anyway, for us, the theme is that we must increase our production level. So we have we have a higher demand in terms of foodstuff than what we produce, and we also need to increase our energy production because we know that demand is going to increase by 50%. I heard some professors that spoke about the Green Deal and the fact that it started in the wrong way, in a sense, but the goal is no doubt that of responding to future needs, and in this connection we need to look at what the situation is and what the possibilities are. So what did Confagricoltura do? Mr. Pradini was saying that you don't need to focus on those who were pioneers and those who weren't, and we are not, of course, interested in saying how long we've been working in the field of agroenergy, but objectively we were the first and the only ones in Europe to launch a project in 2009, 2010 that was followed by the creation of some 20 plants that started from the assumption that we wanted to create a consortium-based model which would ensure a circular economy and the participation of farmers to provide to use agricultural waste to generate wealth that was then redistributed, not just among the farmers who produced biomass, but also to all the world of waste producers, such as sugarcane producers. This has had an interesting impact on the environment because today these plants process biomethane. Some new projects were introduced. In Lombardy, we have some 20 plants. Some have already been completed, some are being built, and this implies for the environment the possibility of recovering and enhancing over 700,000 tons of digestate, not just liquid, but also solid waste. So in connection with the objectives of the Climate and Energy Plan, we need to produce 5.7 billion cubic meters. We are now a bit over 2.5 billion. We know that we have got growing goals, also in connection with the amount of gas to be used for transportation, etc. And we know that the goal has moved from 14 to 29% in this European project. So what has this initiative brought to the territory in terms of circularity and in terms of the improvement of farming techniques that were being mentioned earlier? Well, some 30 million cubic meters of gas were produced. This has led to the reduction of 100,000 tons of CO2, and we were talking about emissions and targets to be reached. Somebody was speaking about the reduction of ammonia thanks to the technology that was mentioned earlier, also by the president of Analensi. So technology is useful when it produces interesting results, and in this case we think we are going to reduce 1.3 million kilograms of the nitrogen that would release into the atmosphere. So what do we need? Well, we have made huge step forwards. We have made great investments, some 200 million euros. But what we are lacking are some things. First of all, 2026 is just not around the corner. So June 2026 is not far away. We need to understand what is going to happen after 2026. So we imagine that there's going to be something after the Climate and Energy Plan, for the companies that are still waiting for authorizations or that would like to grow for themselves in the country. The second aspect is related to those processes that are already ongoing and that for a series of reasons will have to go through a bottleneck that may not bring them to reach the grid by June 2026. So the systems that have already been authorized and that are being built, I think that we should make some evaluation concerning the timings of a possible extension. As far as the minimum guaranteed prices, here too we need to make some reflections. This was an important step. It was also we also heard what was done from the standpoint of associations to try and grant a future to those companies that in the production of biogas have got long timings in order to get to biomethane. Well, in that case, we need to have a price horizon that is a bit extended from a fiscal standpoint, and the Vice Minister referred to it, so I'm not going to get to repeat anything. It's an important topic, though, an essential one, and that has had a very strong impact. We're not finished yet. There are so many goals to achieve, and they must be achieved. In this connection, we should look at the civil code and revise the norm 2135. We do not just produce foodstuff as farmers. You all know this, of course, but we also produce something else, which is electric energy power. So we must clarify this idea of connected activities. So we as farmers must be able to produce both foodstuff and energy. These two things can be done at the same time, simultaneously, and the biogas world is clearly an example of this. So, but we also need to understand objectively where we're going, where we're heading, what are the strategies for the energy plan to be reached. As Confagricoltura, some days ago, we launched an observatory on agro-energy. We want to take stock of the situation, understanding what technologies are available and what the targets are. A last consideration is the following. We also heard earlier about difficulties, and Professor Frascarelli was mentioning them, the difficulty for these plans to meet the approval of civil society and the public opinion, probably after we have overcome COVID, but we have not yet overcome other issues, despite the many years of activity in which very few plans had an impact on the territory. So despite this, people continue to have a negative attitude vis-à-vis renewable energy sources and their production. So as Confagricoltura, we launched this community which we enhanced in the field of solar energy. It's the first experience in Italy where, differently from what we have been discussing this morning, where we have energy production and the farmers have got a different role to play. The problem is that very often some areas suffer the implementation of solar power plants. With the creation of these communities, though, the approach is different, because people have a perception of the benefits of the creation, concerning the creation of these energy production plants. So these communities will sort of match energy producers and energy consumers and act as a connection between the world of energy production and civil society, because we will show that we can redistribute wealth through these renewable energy communities that will make people understand how beneficial this all is. Yes, it's an alliance between producers and consumers, so that society can accept and consume the production of energy, different production of energy mode and energy consumption. Over the past few days, the national political arena and the international one have become, I've had to deal with so many issues. Anyway, the farm Minister Francesco Lollobrigida sent us a message.
Greetings to all participants, and thanks to the Italian Biogas Consortium and its president Piero Gattoni for the invitation. I cannot be present because I'm busy with the European Commissioner for Fisheries on an official visit that, as Minister, I certainly could not miss. However, this is a particularly important topic today, energy production thanks to the agricultural system. Agriculture also in this case, and we will tell each other in these days in the event that we organize in the center of Rome and in the center of the capital of Italy, and now also the capital of Europe, where the treaties were signed. It will be about agriculture in its different perspectives, among which the model of solar energy production without land consumption is certainly not secondary, as did the 22,000 enterprises that we financed with the PNRR, and the production of biogas is also a pivotal element. Renewables capable of closing a cycle with also the guarantee of additional income to a world like agriculture, which gives so much and must have the possibility of guaranteeing sufficient income not only for the current generations but also for future generations, limiting waste, ensuring greater energy autonomy, strengthening the competitiveness of farms by supplementing income with the enhancement of byproducts. This is the change of pace we want to have in Europe, and Italy in Europe is cornerstone, is an active contributor and an active contributor of ideas with a clear vision that in only 3 years of government it has managed to assert itself. Italy is in the forefront. This was shown by our Deputy President Peter with Commissioner Hansen in the guidelines. And let me say, such guidelines speak Italian because in those guidelines on agriculture you find so many battles that we've waged, starting with food sovereignty. And it was a stimulus for the development model that would shelter our consumption and our production from the risk of disruption of supply chains, but also and especially European ones. We have the awareness that as Italy of the importance of Europe, and of course we cannot go anywhere without Europe, but without Italy you cannot go anywhere. And so working together, considering all the elements that contribute to the prosperity of the peoples of Europe, and so it was written there in the guidelines of the treaties of Rome, and today it is a reference point, Italy, of European policy. Less bureaucracy, more strategic projects, and in the case of bioenergy, of course, we can push to produce more and better, lowering environmental costs, and on the other hand, lowering the costs for entrepreneurs, for a sustainability that has to be all-inclusive, sustainability of the environment, but also protection of the economy and productivity in our European economic framework. That's why biomethane is an important element, an element that in history already proved to be able to respond to various types of needs, even in small communities, and that can establish itself and accompany a path of growth and innovation. We will have many opportunities, not just to have an exchange of ideas, but to have an exchange about the results that we intend to bring forward as a government led by Giorgia Meloni, capable of reaching Europe together with so many colleagues. We work as a team. My colleague Pichetto Fratin from the environment. So we want to get to goals like the ones that I've mentioned. I'd like to thank all entrepreneurs present. I'd like to thank the presidents of the associations and all of those who are working not just to affirm a model of resilient agriculture, but capable of promoting technological innovation to make themselves more and more competitive. Thanks a lot to the Minister for the message.
And I would like to get back to what the Minister was saying, to go back to our guests. We started the morning with these 3 great challenges for the future as they were described to us by FAO: food, energy, and the fight against climate change, the protection of the environment. So, Mr. Prandini, I will begin with you. Experiences such as that of Biogas Italy can be a way for Italy to lead change and innovation also at the European level. Well, I think so, yes. So what we did so far up until today in terms of our relationship with Biogas Italy was precisely to represent within the institutions what for us are great opportunities in terms of sustainable development, real development, not just, an ideological one, nor that of the Green Deal as it had been presented to us by the then Timmermans commissioner. Perhaps we have forgotten about it, but what it did, it challenged all the issue of the emission of cattle raising activities in the atmosphere without being able to develop what was seen as a negative element, turning it into something positive. And it was also related to other phenomena that were concerned, for instance, the use of fertilizers and other chemicals in the farming sector. So Gloria Andretta was talking about training, and she is right. Unless we start from training and unless we do provide new forms of training also through technical schools, which look to the challenges of the future, of course, in the awareness of our history, our roots, well, we need to implement everything that is related to innovation in farming, which is farming 4.0, using big data, and then we need to make use of fast internet all over Italy. Well, still today we are the country which is less developed from this perspective. We have a coverage that reaches 52%. Spain has 93-94%. So these are the challenges that we must rise up to, connected with the topic of sustainability, so biogas, biomethane. But allow me to say, and I will draw some antipathies, attract some antipathies, but I always believe that we must not deny problems. All the work that we carried out, we did in order to grant opportunities to farming entrepreneurs. And I don't want all this work to then fall into the hands of a few who speculate on energy producing activities. I want these opportunities to remain connected to those who farm. Then we become providers of electric power, we become providers of certificates, the certificates that others are going to be needing. But whenever we create an opportunity, we cannot delegate or give it for free into somebody other's hands who will, reap all the benefits, and we go back becoming providers of what others need. So also in this connection, I think that we need a change of pace compared with the past. So then we heard about the theme of all the work that we are carrying out. The minister talked about it, Raffaele Fitto. Here too, I want to underscore that just because the said it is in the guidelines, it doesn't mean that we have solved all problems, but we have to continue working and continue to progress. I would like to go back to a topic which is very important. I think we created certain conditions. At the time, Fitto was the Italian minister, and he, of course, was in touch with the European Parliament, and he was delegated in connection with the national recovery and resilience plans. We managed to obtain resources, 3 billion euros of resources, passing from 6 billion, that was the total value of the funding for farming. We got to 9 billion, and the 3 additional billions are all focused on renewables, photovoltaic energy. And so we set the stage to move from 40% to 80% non-refundable funding, regardless of where this was carried out. And I think that beyond the needs of farms, we must continue to work in order to continue using all our surfaces to become producers of electric power and create a mechanism whereby biogas, biomethane, photovoltaic power, not what uses farmland, of course, because as an organization, we of course campaigned against this, but we must pay attention that people do not outsmart us and make a bad use of opportunities. In Lombardy, we managed to change the law concerning authorizations for biomethane plants in terms of simplification. We managed to simplify things, including we simplified things for farms. But there is a paradox, of course. This may be just bureaucratic red tape, but the activities carried out by biogas and biomethane plants are not considered by the authorities as that part of renewable energy that must be used for the transition that has been established at 2035 as an additional part, because photovoltaic, wind power, maybe hydroelectric power may only be those who will be considered. I'm not sure, I may be wrong, but today biomethane and biogas are not included in this mix. So in a short period of time we must set the stage whereby also biogas and biomethane are included into this. Why? Because in a region, and I'm talking here about this region, Lombardy, creating a mechanism whereby when you talk about renewables, the institutions think that they can obtain them through different sectors other than biogas and biomethane. This is wrong. We think we must further develop other plans set up by our entrepreneurs to create that awareness among citizens, so that the role of the farm or of the cattle raiser does not go against society, but they are the people who have protected society and have created a local culture that belongs to us, which is what allowed us to develop those unique things that the world knows about Italy in terms of food production. So we can do all these things thanks to the involvement of a player that were perhaps little appreciated in terms of producing new energy sources, specifically biogas and biomethane. So we are ready, of course, to create a culture of this energy source production in order to go beyond all those elements that have drawn the public opinion to oppose these forms of energy production. And so lots of projects have not seen the light because they have met with an adverse position by the public opinion. So we need to introduce a cultural change in this connection, because things are far different. Anyway, I would like to conclude by saying that what I'm interested about is looking to the future, not who does what, but we want to look to at the objectives that we must set for our companies in terms of strategies. But we must give certainties to our firms and farms. We cannot just look at 2 years from now, what is going to happen 2 years from now. We must have a medium to long-term vision, so that farms can invest on longer periods, so that the certificates that are going to be obtained, etc., can become an added value from an economic perspective, improving on the traditional activities carried out by farmers. So I think that the work that we must carry out with biogas, the Biogas Consortium, the CIB, Biogas Italy, is not over at all. We're just at the beginning of a long journey that is going to bring success to the CIB, and that I think is going to bring a very positive future to our farmers and cattle raisers. Thank you. Thank you, Ettore Prandini, President of Coldiretti, and with these great hopes that our journey is long and fruitful and fascinating as it has been so far, I would like to go back to Mr. Gherardi to ask him, well, it's the farmer at the end of the day who must be the protagonist, who must remain at the center of this revolution, of the energy transition, of the environmental one. There is no other way.
Yes, sorry. May I say something? I apologize with everybody, but this morning I had to catch a flight at 9. It took off later. I have to catch a flight at 2:30 from Milan to Apulia. I'm sorry if I have to go. It was a big pleasure and honor to be here with us. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much. Goodbye. We do perfectly understand. It's very rich days, days rich in events and international meetings. Okay, so the entrepreneur is at the center of this transformation. Yes, the entrepreneur is at the center of this transformation. And allow me to go back to some agronomic elements. The central element is represented by the organic substance. Without it, we don't have fertility, if we want to be simple. The organic substance, where is it? In this case, you're lucky because you are in Lombardy, you have so many farms, and the possibility to have this precious element, gold. I come from Ferrara, as you can understand from my accent, and I was blocked in a gridlock in the motorway, and there was also a train delay. In Ferrara, the situation is completely different in terms of presence of organic substance in soils. When you hear about deforestation, desertification, it's a current theme. Climate change and water shortage, it's the effects of the same coin. And our content of organic substance is reducing. It's just above 1%. This morning we heard about regenerative farming. It's a rediscovery of techniques that perhaps in the past we already knew, and today we use different technologies and techniques. Technologies and techniques, culture and progress are the basic element to get to the future. We spoke about enhancement of digestate. I have a biogas system, and technologies connected to precision farming allow to enhance the features, nutritional features of the product. It's the best fertilizer available. Even if you compare it with chemical fertilizers, the use of chemistry together with digestate, it enhances the effect of both elements. So the possibility to develop and apply precision farming to distribution techniques of digestate, we saw a trailer truck before. We can enhance the possibility to use in the best possible moment, in the best spot, the ideal quantity of fertilizer, and precision farming allows us to do it also in full respect of plants. At this point, we've talked about cultural background of the labor force, and the labor force is a winning element whereby our companies can become competitive. We have difficulty to find labor force, adequately skilled labor force. At the same time, artificial intelligence that provides us with impressive numbers, everything has to be interpreted. And despite the technologies available and the presence of man and the ability of people to interpret data is fundamental today. Yes, it's true. We need to train agronomists that can use such new technologies. Such technologies are coming, and this represents the future step in terms of the development of techniques and technologies. Now, briefly, such themes. Climate change or the objectives mentioned in the morning, everything has to also include assisted evolution techniques, but not just in terms of resistance to pests and climate change, but we will have a reduction in the nitrogen quantity, nutritional elements that we can use from farm to fork. So the crucial element to keep all such things together is to work on decarbonization of the atmosphere, CO2 capture. And we don't just have CO2 to control. We have nitrogen peroxide and methane itself. But in the case of CO2, we can even improve things. And from an agronomic perspective and the increase of organic substance, we can develop coal credits and interconnected with the quantity of organic substance in the soil. The techniques mentioned before and what Professor Frascarelli said, the plow will be one of the elements that will determine the end of the world. It is stated by a Southern American professor together with wood consumption. And because when you work the land, you bring back to surface CO2. And so we are fully aware, thinking about the future of our companies, the future of our companies corresponds to the future of society. We have to consider the future and apply new techniques. The model of biogas that we've seen today and will see, and biogas done right, such farming techniques will be a beacon for the future. If we follow this beacon, probably our future will be more brightening than the present one. Thank you so much also for indicating hope. And at the end of the tunnel, we have light. Thanks a lot to Nicola Gherardi. At this point, we close the morning, and now we will have, obviously, lunch break. And Piero, before lunch break, we will play the video again. And yes, and then speaking now with the lunch ready, it's difficult. I'd like to thank all participants, speakers, and special thanks to Nicola and Ettore Prandini for being today with us in this exchange. I believe that support work given by farming organizations to our sector is a big result we brought home, and it will guide us in the future in terms of strategies for our companies. So the emotional video, enjoy the break, and be back at 2:30 for the continuation of the session. Thank you so much.
Ci hanno sempre chiesto di scegliere: natura o tecnologia, energia o alimentazione, tradizione o progresso. Ma oggi possiamo avere tutto. Oggi siamo innovatori e custodi della nostra tradizione agricola. Grazie a Precision Farming rispettiamo il suolo e riduciamo gli sprechi. Nei nostri allevamenti ci preoccupiamo del benessere animale con alimentazione bilanciata, cure mirate, ambienti sani e confortevoli. E grazie al biogas e al biometano trasformiamo gli scarti in energia. È ciò che l'agricoltura fa da sempre. Dare nuova vita alle risorse. Restituire alla terra ciò che è della terra. L'antica saggezza agricola, con l'aiuto della tecnologia, continua a generare nuovo valore. Per le case, per le aziende, per tutti. Inoltre il ciclo del biogas è un alleato contro il cambiamento climatico. Perché il digestato, il residuo del processo di digestione anaerobica e produzione di energia, è un fertilizzante naturale che usiamo nelle nostre campagne e che permette di stoccare CO2, rendendo il suolo più fertile, il pianeta più sano, il futuro più sicuro. Il biogas è il simbolo di un'agricoltura che lavora per tutti, una tecnologia avanzata, sicura e pulita, che unisce innovazione e comunità, progresso e natura. Grazie al fattore tecnologico possiamo ridurre gli sprechi, respirare aria più pulita, alimentare le nostre vite con energia sostenibile, rinnovabile e programmabile. È il progresso che rispetta la terra, il futuro che ci fa vivere meglio. Gli agricoltori di oggi sono cambiati e le aziende agricole sono cambiate con loro. Oggi non dobbiamo più scegliere. Natura, benessere animale, fertilità del suolo, energia, comunità. Possiamo avere tutto. L'agricoltura è cambiata e ci beneficiano tutti.